Lynn Gillings and her daughter Ashley led a normal and healthy life. Lynn put in many hours as a steward at Weston Bakeries in Coburg, while Ashley was a happy 12-year-old looking forward to her teenage years ahead. At the time, her family couldn't explain it. Ashley quickly became ill and was admitted into hospital for observation.
Saturday morning, she woke up and her gums were all swollen over her teeth, and they were just completely gone. So Dr. Whiteman, she was an awesome doctor. She happened to be on call. She came around, did rounds, and she checked her and she looked at me. She took me out in the hall and she said, "That is a classic sign of leukemia." And she said, "We're going to keep her, and we'll know more if we do a bone marrow test."
The worst part, we had really good friends. And their mom passed away with leukemia like 3 years before I got sick. And we always were over there. We always hung out with them. And the second they came into that room, it went my mom, my grandpa, my grandma, and it's like, I don't even remember how many doctors behind. My mom was crying. My grandpa, who never cries, was crying. Then when they said leukemia, I thought I was going to die. I figured she didn't make it through. There's no way I was going to make it through.
Ashley was diagnosed with AML, acute myeloblastic leukemia, which is not commonly found in children her age. Lynn was faced with a tough decision, putting Ashley through research treatment that could be risky or standard treatment which may not work. Lynn chose research treatment and quickly realized how difficult this route would be.
That is the hardest. It's probably the second day in, and she was in the bathroom and she was just sick, and she was just begging to die. And I was out in the hallway and I was listening to her. And it was just like, oh God, what have I done to her?
Tammy Foster is all too familiar with leukemia. A meatpacker at Metro in Mississauga, Tammy has seen firsthand the effects of the disease as well as the current treatments.
My dad was diagnosed with leukemia, it's got to be 8-9 years now. He's in full remission, and I lost my brother-in-law 2 years ago in September to leukemia. The treatment, I think, is worse than the disease sometimes, and that's what killed Pat. It was ultimately the treatment that killed him. He was bleeding internally. The leukemia didn't take him. The treatment did. It was a death sentence.
Dr. Patrick Gunning, a medicinal chemist and researcher out of the University of Toronto, has made great strides in creating compounds to kill cancer cells and cancer cells alone in leukemia and lymphoma patients.
Trying to make drugs that target one specific protein, and by targeting one specific protein we can remove a lot of side effects, because side effects are due to drugs that have no specificity. They target cancer cells and they target normal healthy cells. There's definitely a real need for new cancer compounds. Someone dies of leukemia every 80 minutes. It's a pretty horrible disease. And the problem with the compounds that we have today is that some of them are 20 years old, cisplatin, and it's still one of the most commonly used therapeutics in clinical practice just now. And the silver bullet hasn't been developed yet. So it has to be developed, and that's what we're hoping to achieve.
UFCW Locals 175 and 633's charity of choice is the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada, which funds Dr. Gunning's research. Without our help, this research could not continue. After a long battle with difficult treatment and hospital visits, Ashley is now 10 years cancer-free. Although doctors insisted she wouldn't be able to conceive, Ashley has 2 beautiful girls, Raylan and Akayla. The research therapy was certainly a trying point in her life, but Ashley has no regrets.
I look at it as a case that had it went wrong and I hadn't made it through, I still was on the research chemo. There was, no matter what way it went, something was to be learned by what had happened. Everybody's completely different. Everybody's cells act completely different ways. There's some way something was going to get learned from it.
Over the past 3 years, UFCW Locals 175 and 633 alone have contributed over $1 million to the LLSC. Several fundraisers, many organized by dedicated members, have created a serious awareness for blood cancers. Michael Collins, a steward at Holiday Inn Select in Windsor, organized Catch for a Cure, a fundraising fishing derby.
Why did I do it for leukemia? Well, a certain rep that's close to my heart, she had shown us this video that just brought tears to our eyes, and it was about children with leukemia. It was just child after child that was suffering with leukemia, terminally ill with leukemia, had recently passed on with leukemia, and with a 5-year-old son, all I could think of was, what if that was my child? Would I not want somebody to help me?
Why should you fundraise? She's alive. If nobody gave, how many kids out there today would not be around?
With all that we do, there's always so much more to be done. Support UFCW Locals 175 and 633's fight in defeating leukemia. It must, and it will be done.